You're in an American-built camp in Guana in the 1970s, and you're about to drink poisoned Kool-Aid for reasons you don't really remember. But how did you get here? And most importantly, why did you join this cult in the first place?
Why is it so common to join religious cults in America? In order to fully answer this question, I'm going to try and use two different cults as examples and how these compare and contrast with the common new religious movement tropes. I'm then going to explain some of the consequences, causes, and solutions to the problem of joining a cult. First, we have the People's Temple, which was an American new religious movement in the 1950s. The organization was a mixture of Christianity and socialism, and realistically bolstered about 3,500 members at its peak. The organization moved multiple times over its lifespan. However, after allegations that some of its members were part of a socialistic terrorist group, it moved to Guana in South America. And after accidentally killing a visiting politician, Jim Jones initiated his final plan and convinced the entire colony of killing themselves by drinking poisoned Flavor Aid. In total, 909 people died that day in what is today known as the largest mass suicide in modern history. At the same time, we have a slightly tame American creative movement, which was the Earnhardt Seminars Training, which was created in 1971 by Werner Earnhardt. The movement offered a $525 course, which went over 60 hours. The course promised to renew the person and make them break free of all the expectations they had from themselves, and instead just let them be themselves. The movement was later accused of being both a cult and of brainwashing the people. In order to better analyze these two different organizations, I'm going to use the categorization method created by Roy Wallace. Roy Wallace came up with a method of categorizing different cults, or as he would call them, new religious movements. According to his theories, the People's Temple would be considered a world rejecting new religious movement. This means that they reject some of the common societal tropes or values. Like in People's Temple's case, this would be their socialistic and communal ways of living instead of the normal, capitalistic, more individual values. The Earnhardt training seminars would, on the other hand, according to Roy Wallace, be a world-affirming new religious movement, which means that they, instead of rejecting some of the normal societal values, instead embrace them and focus more on the human's potential and the human development. Now you might be wondering, why do we join new religious movements? One of the main reasons can be explained using Maslow's theory of human motivation. This pyramid explains that in order to go further up the motivational pyramid, one first needs to acquire all levels below. On this level, we can see that a sense of belonging and friendship is a central piece. In cult's perspective, this is often relevant as when the power of religion fades, the community and belonging these religions would bring needs to be found elsewhere. And since morality is much higher on Maslow's pyramid, they might join organizations without questioning their morality. People that therefore have gone through drastic changes in their life, through a breakup or through the loss of a loved one, will therefore be very vulnerable to any offer of community. It is common for people to believe that people who join cults are dysfunctional or insane. However, according to Phil Zimbardo, and I quote, the majority of normal, average, intelligent individuals can be led to engage in immoral, illegal, and irrational, aggressive, and self-destructive actions that are contrary to their values or personality. When manipulated situationally, conditions exert their power over individuals' dispositions. This basically means that the normal and intelligent people are not immune to the influence of cults. Another theory can be traced back to the studies and theories made by B.F. Skinner. Now, he theorized that there is no such thing as a free will, and that we're all the time trying to either avoid a punishment or trying to gain a reward. Now, this traces back to cults, as punishments and rewards are a fundamental building block of cults, establishments, and that it is through these punishment and reward that the cults and or movements can mold a person's or condition a person to like certain things. There are multiple consequences of staying or joining a cult. The common trope of cults is the controlling behavior of it, and this controlling behavior limits and restrains the personal development. There are multiple consequences of staying or joining in a cult. There are multiple consequences of staying or joining a cult. A common trope in cults is the controlling behavior of it. This controlling behavior limits and restrains the personal development the cult members can have, and therefore when they do try to come back into society after the disbanding of the cult, they're going to have a difficult time to readjust back into society. This is since the people will, if they did not leave the cult at their own terms, be lacking the sense of belonging once again. Therefore, according to Maslow's pyramid, they will once again be motivated by finding this new sense of belonging. And since this sense of belonging is below self-esteem and the respect of others and morality, the person has a high chance of coming into contact and joining a bad group once again. This person would therefore likely be dysfunctional in society and might get depression if he or she is not treated correctly. Another consequence would be that some world-rejecting new religious movements not only try to control the members' behavior but also their financial assets, which of course is negative for society as the money would not be directly spent on wares and services, which in turn can affect the profitability of businesses and the country's GDP. Now, you might at the same time be wondering why people stay in cults and why members just don't leave. And this is according to Phil Zimbardo, since cults don't usually start out as cults. They start out as groups of people with a similar view on society and its ideals. And it's only when the group starts to become dysfunctional and destructive and start to control people that it does become a cult. At the same time, according to the group conformity experiments done by Solomon Asch in the 1950s, in 39% of cases, people will agree with the group's unanimous decision even though they know it is wrong. They shape their reality in order to fit and agree with the group. And shared their opinion. In the study, this only applied to if a person was entirely alone with their opinion. And if there was another person that shared the individual's opinion, they were much less likely to agree with the group's unanimous decision. This can be related back to cults, as when people do join cults and the group has a unanimous decision that goes against the person's own views, they are likely not to voice it out of fear of disagreement and or punishment. To answer the assignment question, it might be common for cults and religious movements to spring up in America due to the liberal and free-spiritedness of the nation, but also that religious freedom is written into the country's own constitution. And to end it all with the solutions, which are quite difficult to know since there are so many different cults that want different things. One thing to know though is that you should never join a group or a cult at the expense of your own morality or your everyday choices. According to Philip Zimbardo also, we should, as a solution to cults, try and involve some of the tropes of cults into everyday society, like that sense of belonging and the sense of community, which should be an obvious thing that every society should provide. In other words, we should create cults of our own, without the deception, without the lies, and without the controlling behavior, in order to prevent the citizens from joining these destructive cults.